What is up, guys? It's Alex the Magician here, back for another Heroes 3 tier list video. And in this one, we are going to be doing the last dwelling tier list. So this is going to be tier 5, and the reason this is the last dwelling tier list is because tier 5 is the last dwelling that you actually have to fight the creatures in order to be able to recruit them. So the rest of the creatures will just be ranked in terms of how good the creatures are. So tier 4, 3, 2, and 1, we're basically just going to be ranking the creatures. Here, we are still going to be ranking the dwellings themselves, and we're going to be considering not only how strong the creature itself is, not only how much utility you can get out of the creature, but also how easy or difficult the dwelling itself is to take. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree with this. If you guys do enjoy the video, leave a like and a comment below as well. If you guys would rank something differently, let me know in the comments below as well. And if you guys have ideas on videos you'd like to see me do, also leave that in the comments below. I always look for new ideas, and I welcome, new ideas for videos. So if you give me an idea that I think will be good, you will very likely actually see that in an upcoming video. Okay, so let's just get into this. We'll rank these from the top down. The best one, in my opinion, of course, as any tier list, this is my opinion, right? So the best one is going to be the Minotaur dwelling, the Labyrinth. So the tier 5 dwelling for dungeon. The reason that I have this here is because unlike the dragons that are really difficult to build, pretty much impossible to build as dungeon on week 1, with the Labyrinth, you can definitely build Minotaurs on week 1, and you can also build the Portal of Summoning, and that gives you even more Minotaurs, right? So on week 1, with just one dwelling, you can have 9 Minotaurs, right? And let's say you get 2 dwellings. With just 2 dwellings on week 2, provided you don't spoil your portal, you can have 26 Minotaurs on 1-2-1, right? With just 2 external labyrinths by, portaling them and also building the Minotaur dwelling. So that already can be a power stack. So some people actually like Minotaurs more than they like Manticores, and some people even like Minotaurs over dragons as well. However, I do prefer dragons, but the Minotaur dwelling is good. Minotaurs are really strong, they hit really hard. They are kind of glass cannons, they don't really tank, they only have 50 HP, but if you can maneuver them properly, also if you can use, Minotaur Kings, and they have positive morale always, right? So they don't get affected by many factions or anti-morale artifacts, except for the Spirit of Oppression. So that's another nice bonus. But yeah, the one thing you got to watch out for with Minotaurs is that you really got to kind of keep them away and just like strike and retreat so that you don't get hit. If you get hit, that power stack will melt away really quickly. Okay, the next one is going to be Genies, right? So the tower dwelling. Oh yeah, and this, as far as the Minotaur dwelling is, you can usually take it pretty easily, relatively few losses. You will lose a couple of troglodytes because, if you're taking them on your day 1 army, you will not be able to one-shot them, but you are not going to lose more than maybe like 15 to 20 troglodytes taking them. And the reward is definitely going to be worth it. Alright, so the next one is Genies. Genies are really good with one but. So usually you can take these without losses. The only thing is that you may be vulnerable to morale if you're not taking them on a tactics hero, because you're going to have gremlins usually as your power stack, right? And if the Genies morale and close the gap right away, well, you're screwed. So you're definitely better off taking these on a tactics hero, just closing off your gremlins and shooting down the Genies. The good thing about these is that the Genies are a really good unit in terms of the buffs, right? But you need the upgraded Genies. So the Dwelling only lets you recruit unupgraded ones. So as opposed to the lamps that you get as tower, you will need to build the Genies, and you will need to build the upgraded Genie Dwelling. So in that case, they're a little bit slow. But these are definitely pretty useful to have. So I do like these. Definitely more useful when you can actually upgrade the genies though. All right, next we are gonna rank the cow dwelling and the dendroid dwelling, and also the sea witches dwelling. So the Gorgon dwelling, I would say, is probably the best one out of these three, although again, this is my opinion. Relatively easy to take. You will lose some gnolls when taking these, like probably 15 to 20 gnolls or something like that, because you do have to fight 9 cows, and the cows are pretty tanky. But they are pretty good units. They are tanky. They'll help you in hives, and especially with Beastmasters, they'll help you even more. They can tank against a break. They can tank in Utopias. So pretty good unit to have. If you need additional meat to tank some damage. They have, I believe, 70 HP, which is the same as the Wyvern, right? So, and if you can actually upgrade them to Mighty Gorgons, they have that nasty Death Stare ability that can be really helpful against, things like Crystal Dragons or Rust Dragons. It can really help in Utopias, etc. So if you can upgrade these, really good as well. But the utility is going to be pretty good even if you don't upgrade them. All right, dendroids, they're going to be really easy to take, so they're really slow, right? The elves or grand elves will shoot them down with no problem, so you really are not going to be losing anything when you're fighting these, and they're also really good utility. Rampart needs additional, they are tanky and they have that binding ability that can be really helpful. It can be helpful in taking the dragon cliffs, it can be helpful in Utopias, really helpful in hives as well, and Rampart desperately needs something like that because the elves and the centaurs, are not very tanky, and well, centaurs are okay, but you don't really have very large numbers of them usually. So it's kind of difficult to take hives as rampart for that reason. And if you can get a couple of these dwellings and build them in your town, it becomes a lot easier, right? So really good unit, easy to take. So for that reason, they're here on B tier. And the sea witches, they could be a little bit tricky. However, in most cases, because they are ranged units, right? But in most cases, you're going to be playing as Cassiopeia, and you're going to have tactics, right? So with expert tactics and your Oceanids, you really shouldn't lose anything. You just kind of block them off with 1-stacks, take retaliation, strike, and retreat if you need to, but you will probably be close to one-shotting the 9 sea witches anyway. The good thing about these is they're really nasty ability, right? They cast weakness and then disrupting ray after weakness. So if you have to fight something difficult and you really need to lower the defense of whatever you're fighting, you can just make 1-stacks of these and just continuously, bombard them with that disrupting ray, and then your power stack just takes it down since, it'll have like really low defense. So for that reason, I have them here is because their utility can be really good. They are really nasty units to deal with when you're utilizing them as 1-stacks that just lower the, whatever you're fighting defense. Okay, next I'm going to rank the Cliff Nest and also the Hellhole. So Cliff Nest, the Stronghold dwelling, you get rocks, pretty good units, tanky. They have 60 HP, I believe, and unlike most Stronghold units, they actually are pretty tanky. So they can help you in hives. If you can upgrade them, really helpful as well. Give you first move in pickets, even if you're not using Gretchen or Tyrixor. So, and they have that Thunderbolt ability as well, so really helpful if you can upgrade them. I would say just an all-around really solid unit. They also give you speed 11 if you do upgrade them, so you can speed up your heroes with them. Also, you can have a fast stack in like a final battle, although speed 11 is not that fast, but still pretty good. So all around pretty decent units. As far as taking them goes, you can usually do it with no losses. Just kind of stay back, let them move forward, take retaliation, hit them with the dogs, and then take retaliation on round 2 if you still need to, and then finish them with a dog. So you should only lose like 1 dog and 1 goblin when fighting these. So relatively easy to take as well. Alright, as far as the Hellhole goes, so the Pit Fiends, they are a pretty solid unit. Also, Inferno is one of those factions that desperately needs some additional meat to, like, take hives or something like that. You can usually take these with no losses. You will be able to block off your Gogs. It is risky because on terrain, these guys will have speed 7 if they happen to morale. I think they can... they may be able to close the gap. I'm not 100% sure on that, or, at least get close to that. But usually you will be able to shoot them down without losing too much. You probably will lose something like some imp 1 stacks or, a little bit of meat, but usually it's not going to be that bad. And also, if you can, excuse me, if you can upgrade these and actually get Pit Lords, right, so then you can do the demon farming strat. So that makes them really, really good. The problem with the demon farming strat is that it's slow. You can only start it, I believe, on day 5 usually, because you usually will go for like the GOG upgrade on day 1. And usually what you want to actually do demon farming is you want to find either a Pit Lord's box or you want to find a hill fort where you can upgrade these guys without actually having to build the upgraded Pit Lord dwelling. So for that reason, they're not really as high as they could have been. Like if the demon farming thing was a little bit more viable, a little bit faster, I probably would have ranked these higher. But because it's a little bit slow, I have them down here. All right, the next one is going to be the Monastery and the Altar of Earth. So as far as the Monastery goes, if you're taking them without a tactics hero, you usually don't want to do it because you are going to have your power stack in Marksman, and these guys are ranged, and there's 9 of them, so they're going to focus down your power stack, and you're not going to be able to close the gap right away. So really, the way you want to take these is once you get Angels or something like that, once you get a fast unit, or like a Cavaliers or Champions with Tactics or something, where you can close the gap in 1 turn. So you really don't want to be... This is probably the only dwelling on the list that you really don't want to be taking. Well, maybe not, maybe the next one is also, but you really don't want to be taking these on your day 1 army. Everything else you can take on your day 1 army without too many problems. But yeah, these guys, you want to go for when you can actually close the gap and your marksman stack doesn't suffer. And for that reason, I think that it's just not that common to go for these. That's kind of why I have them that so low. The Monks and Zealots themselves, they are good units. They're tier 5 ranged units. The Zealots do no melee penalty, so if you can upgrade them, that's also really good. But it's just not that common to see you go for them. There's usually more priority, higher priority stuff to go for, and, like I said, you're not going to go for these really early, which really a lot of these dwellings are more benefits in the earlier game than they are. Like the benefits diminish as you move along, right? All right, as far as the Altar of Earth goes, usually you can take these relatively easily, even with your day 1 army, because these guys are really slow. And... but the reason that I have them down here is because they're one of the weakest, if not the weakest, tier 5 unit. And it's just not going to be that useful for you as Conflux in most cases. As Conflux, you're going to be farming with Luna. And the cases where you actually are going to need additional meat, you will usually have something like air elementals or even water elementals. It's not that common to actually go for a stack of earth elementals, and, a big part of the reason is because they're really slow. So their utility is pretty limited. Not much of a risk taking these. They cannot morale, so relatively easy, but the unit itself is just not going to be that useful in a lot of cases. In Hives, if you are taking Hives without Luna, For example, they can certainly serve as additional meat, but, you know, I've played tons of games with Luna, and the number of times these were actually useful for me was pretty limited. So that's why I have them down here. And the last one is going to be the Mausoleum, the Lich dwelling for Necro, right? So these are relatively decent units. They're ranged, they have that Death Cloud ability, they can serve as additional meat, and, you know, so not that bad. However, the problem with these is they're going to be difficult to take. So also your day one army, you're going to suffer. You're going to lose like 30 skeletons when taking these. Even though skeletons are going to be immune to the Death Cloud ability, you still need a few turns. If you don't need haste, you'll need 3 turns to actually close the gap. If you have haste, then, you know, you can close it in two rounds, but you will still be taking some damage. So for that reason, I actually almost never go for the Lich Dwellings. I feel like the utility does not outweigh the loss of skeletons, because as Necro, you really want to kind of snowball your skeleton stack in a lot of cases. So getting 3 Liches is not going to be worth losing 30 skeletons. And you are usually also not going to be building them in your town. I mean, you can, but you're usually going to be focusing on something else, like building vampires, building animate, etc., right? So it's not going to be very common for you to see a power stack of these guys. So for that reason, difficult to take. As far as the utility of the unit goes, it is kind of limited. You're probably not going to have a power stack. For that reason, I have them at the bottom here. Okay guys, well that is it for the tier 5 dwelling tier list. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what you think, if you would rank something differently and why. And I will see you guys in the next video. Also check out my stream, link in the description below if you guys want to see more English speaking Heroes 3 content. So I will see you guys soon. Peace.